Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're wrestling with something, well, something that's a bit of a paradox.
It really is.
Can our religious routines, the very things we do to feel closer to God, can they actually become a wall?
It's the ultimate spiritual irony, isn't it? The more you try to do, the more mechanical it can all start to feel.
And the sources we're looking at today just cut right through that. There's this one line that frames our whole deep dive. I'm after love that lasts, not more religion.
That really is the mission statement. It comes from a reflection on the prophet Hosea, and it perfectly captures this tension between external performance, the stuff you can see and measure.
Right, like showing up, serving, giving.
Exactly. The tension between that and the internal desire for a genuine, enduring covenant love.
So our mission today is to try and identify that subtle line, that moment when a real relationship starts to drift and it becomes more like a transaction.
Precisely, because the default for us, I think, historically and even now, is to approach God through things we can measure. Rituals feel tangible.
They give you the feeling of control, like you're checking off boxes.
You're putting credit in a ledger, but what these sources are screaming is that God wants our inward affection so much more than our outward performance. So our goal today is to give you the tools to maybe see where you are on that spectrum.
Okay, let's start where it all begins then. The source text itself.
Yeah.
Hosea chapter 6, verse 6. What's the standard reading of that?
Well, the most common translations are pretty direct. It's either I desire mercy and not sacrifice, or sometimes loving kindness rather than offerings.
And you have to imagine when Hosea first said this, people must have been shocked. They were probably thinking, but the sacrifices are the point.
That's exactly what they thought. They were meticulous. They were offering countless sacrifices, performing all the right rituals, because they believed those actions were what secured God's favor.
It's that simple math assumption, right? If I do more, if I serve harder, if I'm more disciplined, then God has to be more pleased.
Or even obligated. It feels intuitive to us because that's how the rest of the world works.
Yeah, in your career, at the gym, effort equals reward.
But Hosea is saying you've completely missed the point. It's like they were giving God the ashes from their performance.
When he was asking for the fire from their hearts.
Yes, that's a perfect way to put it.
So if God is saying he delights in things like compassion and faithfulness far more than ritual, it forces a total reevaluation. And this is where the sources warn that we can drift into what they call the transactional trap.
That phrase is so good. Transactional trap. It just perfectly captures that slow decay of intimacy.
Where love just sort of gives way to a system of exchange.
Exactly. You stop relating to God as, your beloved, and you start treating him more like a divine employer or a business partner.
Wait a second. Obedience is still a thing,
Yeah.
right? I mean, spiritual discipline is required. How do you honor that without falling into this trap? That sounds like a really fine line to walk.
It is a tightrope, absolutely. But the difference is the engine driving the action. The transactional mindset says,
If I do this for you, you'll do that for me.
right. And that turns a covenant of unconditional love into a contract based on conditional exchange. And the source material, it actually breaks it down into 4 specific shifts.
Yeah.
4 warning signs.
Okay, let's get into those because this is where it gets really practical for anyone listening.
So the first dangerous shift is when obedience turns into currency. You're not obeying out of joy or just alignment with God's heart. You're doing it to build up spiritual credit.
So the goal isn't transformation, it's accumulation. I get that. What about worship?
Worship becomes duty. It's just another item on the checklist, a mandatory activity instead of this eager, authentic expression of affection. You can feel the difference, can't you?
Yeah. One is a have to, the other is a get to,
And then there's prayer.
which is so often at the center of it when people feel burned out.
Because prayer becomes negotiation. It stops being about communion and it becomes about trying to argue or persuade or even convince God to deliver on a specific outcome.
You're showing up with a business plan instead of an open heart.
Exactly. And that all rolls up into the final overarching shift. What was meant to be this genuine covenant love, it just turns into a performance-based relationship.
And that kind of relationship is just utterly exhausting.
Because the score is never high enough.
Right. And it fundamentally misses what God is actually asking for, which brings us all the way back to that one line.
I'm after love that lasts, not more religion.
That is the core request.
It is. God isn't asking for more programs, more services, more stuff you can put on a spreadsheet. He is asking for an enduring love. He already owns everything. What he wants is you.
So we really need to define that. What does an enduring love or a love that lasts? What does that actually look like when life gets messy?
The sources define it as a love that's rooted in relationship and faithfulness, not in, immediate emotional highs. And this is the critical part.
Okay.
It has to be a love that stays faithful even when blessings are delayed, even when prayers seem to go unanswered, even when life is just painful.
So if your love for God depends on him giving you tangible rewards right now,
It's not enduring, it's transactional.
that is the ultimate test, isn't it? To love the giver even when the gifts seem to stop.
And it connects right back to the most fundamental thing the sources say about God.
That God is love.
Right. So it makes perfect sense that what he wants in return is, well, love. Willing, joyful, wholehearted love, not anxious love.
Not love driven by fear of what might happen if you don't perform.
Exactly. Just genuine affection. When our hearts are in it, our labor is welcomed. When our hearts are distant, our labor just becomes hollow noise.
But in our culture, we are so driven by results, by metrics. Intimacy feels, well, it feels intangible and maybe less valuable because you can't measure it.
It's non-quantifiable, which is why we default to labor. We think, well, if I show up early and I stay late and I sacrifice something painful, that must be working.
It has to count for something.
But the material we've gathered makes it so clear. God is not impressed by sacrifice that's disconnected from the heart. He wants to know you and love you and walk with you. That's the partnership. He's not looking for an employee on a factory floor.
Okay, so this brings us to, I think, the most important part, the real-world application. We've established that discipline, service, obedience, they're all essential.
Yeah.
So if we're not supposed to use them to earn favor, what is their proper role?
They have to function as the fruit, not the fuel.
Ooh, say more about that. Fruit, not fuel.
If you are using obedience to fuel God's love for you, you're in the transactional trap.
Okay.
But if your obedience is the natural fruit of knowing you are already loved by God, then you're walking in a real covenant relationship.
That's a powerful distinction.
It changes everything. True obedience is the fruit of love. True service is the overflow of devotion. And true worship is the response of a heart that just delights in God.
Take away the heart, then they all just become chores.
Anxious, tiring chores, yes.
So let's get really concrete. If you're listening right now and you're trying to figure out if you've slipped into this mode, where do we see this pop up in everyday life?
Bible reading is a great example. In the relationship model, you read out of delight. You want to hear from the beloved?
But in the transactional model,
You move to obligation. It's that feeling of, ugh, I must finish my chapter today, otherwise I failed. The goal shifts from communion to completion.
and you see the same thing with prayer. The sources mention it can become a burden. Instead of eagerly running to commune, you treat it like a list of demands.
Or a last resort. The God card you play only when your own efforts have failed.
This even extends to church. Right, you can move from being a meeting with the beloved in the community to just an appointment on the calendar.
A necessary check mark. You can be physically present, but spiritually a million miles away.
You know, I think the most dangerous one, though, is in serving, in outreach, because the work itself is good, which makes it harder to spot the transactional engine.
Oh, absolutely. It's so easy for good works to subtly become about earning spiritual points.
So how do you tell the difference?
The research dives deep here. When the engine is performance, your focus is on your reputation, your results, or your responsibility.
What people think of me, how many hours I put in?
Exactly. But when the engine is love, your focus is on the mercy and compassion for the people you're actually serving. The action might look identical from the outside, but the internal why is radically different.
And I think we don't realize we're in this trap until we are just completely burned out, running on empty. Because labor that's disconnected from love,
Yeah.
it will always, always deplete us.
And when God sees us caught in that cycle, the sources say, his response is this gentle but firm correction. He's saying, that's not what I am after.
He's not looking for a hired hand.
He's looking for a spouse in covenant.
That is such a profound reassurance. God is not asking you to do more so that he will love you more. He already loves you with an everlasting love.
The invitation is just.
Yeah.
It's into something so much deeper, so much richer than performance. It's an invitation to shift your focus from the measurable to the intimate.
And to gently, honestly ask yourself, am I just going through the motions of religion? Or am I pursuing the romance of a real relationship?
Because what God loves most is your love, not your labor.
And true love chooses him even when it's painful, even when the answers aren't there, even when it costs you something.
So if you're examining your heart right now and you recognize that drift, If you feel that fatigue of working for God instead of walking with Him, the final provocative thought this material leaves us with is a challenge.
What would it look like for you to shift from seeking God's blessings to just declaring, Lord, I want you, not just your blessings? That's the core of enduring love. What immediate practical choice does that profound shift require of you right now?